This is an extremely solemn day. Yesterday was certainly one of the darkest days in Lancaster County. And I'm just going to go into what the Pennsylvania State Police have been able to craft together and the charges, and as the captain said, we'll take some questions. So first and foremost, we're announcing that we've charged Leeton Thomas of 826 Conway Road, Quarryville, with 2 counts of criminal homicide, 1 count of attempted homicide, and 1 count of burglary, person present, for killing Lisa Scheetz, one of her daughters, and trying to kill another daughter. We have not named the daughters. They're teenagers aged 16, 15, and 13. The 16-year-old is the murder victim. The 15-year-old is the attempted murder. And fortunately, the other daughter, 13, was not home at the time. Otherwise, we could be looking at even more solemn occasion today. Just by way of background, Lisa Scheetz and her 3 daughters lived at the location of this terrible scene at 877 Spring Valley Road, East Drumore Township, basically in a basement apartment beneath the Hershey's, Jennifer Hershey, who we'll talk about in a moment. It's in close proximity to the defendant's address, and in fact, they were well known to each other, and typically refer to the defendant by the nickname Pie. And you'll see that in the affidavit. Just so you know, that's the way he was known to really pretty much everybody. This gets much darker in that he had recently been charged by the Pennsylvania State Police, Trooper Giroux, for numerous sexual offenses against 2 of the Scheetz daughters. He had been charged, I believe, in April of this year, and had a preliminary hearing on those charges on May the 22nd of this year, with all the charges being bound over for court. Of course, before I forget, he's presumed innocent of those sexual assault charges, and he's also presumed innocent of the charges that we're announcing today. So that's the background. They had been known to each other. Mr. Leeton's wife to Lisa Scheetz, and had known each other for some time, and of course lived in close proximity. Obviously, the dynamic changed between them as the sexual assault investigation and then charges unfolded. Mr. Thomas, after lived still in close proximity, there was a no contact order, obviously completely meaningless to this individual. So after the prelim, we had a few weeks. There was nothing that we're aware of to date of any contact in between them from that time, and what we've been able to discover to this point and understand that we've not been able to do a full and detailed interview with the surviving daughter at this point, so we will have more information. But this nightmare situation, from what we can tell you, basically unfolded as follows. So about 2:20 in the morning, 911 was called. The state police dispatcher contacted by Jennifer Hershey, the resident upstairs, for screams, and that she was in contact with the surviving daughter, who was essentially hysterical and covered in blood, and had obviously been stabbed. She had immediately indicated to Ms. Hershey that Pye, the defendant, was the one responsible for this attack. They called 911 for state police, who responded extremely quickly to the scene, and have done an outstanding job on this whole investigation and making this arrest come to fruition. So upon that, the police responded, as I said, really quickly. They got there based on the information they had from the daughter, and I apologize if I stumble. I'm just making sure I don't say their names. Immediately went over to the house of the defendant, the suspect at that time, and contacted him. And he was essentially in the place where in police custody from early on. So we did know fairly early on that everybody else at that point, but we need to do much more, and the police did that. So they talked to, again, Ms. Hershey, and then they started looking at the crime scene. Tremendous amount of blood in the basement apartment, and looking at it, they determined what looks like the point of entry, forced entry, which was a ripped or cut and then removed screen in a window, which would have allowed entry back into that basement apartment for the victims, and thus, of course, leading to the burglary charges. The other thing that they noticed early on when they had responded to the defendant's residence was it appeared someone had just taken a shower, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more as we go on. The surviving victim was stabbed multiple times. My understanding was she was in critical condition, and at this point they're saying they expect her to live, which is obviously good news. This could have been 3 or 4 person homicide. Had the other daughter been home, and of course with her conditions, but obviously she's got very serious conditions with stabbed, as said repeatedly, herself. One of the things that the police did, state police did, was they contacted the Red Rose Canine, which is basically a track of bloodhounds that are certified, and they took them to the window of the point of entry, the suspected point of entry, and then they let them go from there, and both of them independently led back to the suspect, the defendant's residence. So you have their cooperation, so we thank them for coming out and working with us and the state police. As I said, in this case, there is, unfortunately, a clear motive for this individual to take this horrific act and do this, and that's that he was facing sexual assault charges and had recently had the preliminary hearing on them. That also ties into the fact that the investigators determined that Lisa Scheetz is valuable still in her residence, and the significance of that is this was not a theft. So whoever went in there to do nothing but kill. And there's no one that we have been able to uncover on the list of people who want to kill a mother of 3 daughters and her teenage daughters. That list is short and consists of 1 person, and it's the defendant. The other thing the police did in processing, and we're still getting more information this morning, and we have a lot more to do, was that not only had the shower appeared to have been recently used, but they found, looking in the washing machine, men's clothing essentially from head to toe, including sneakers, in the washing machine with a massive amount of bleach. And this is, fairly, that property was in police control very shortly after the homicides. So we were able to preserve that. And what took us a long time yesterday was just getting the search warrant ready for that, and that's why we ran up against the clock as far as announcing these last night until here today. So just a couple other things. That's the essence of the charges. Obviously, condolences to the Scheetz family. It's the indescribable loss, pain. These, any loss of life is terrible. Have multiple in one family and now have to deal with the injuries of another. The husband, the father, was no longer, they weren't living together, but as I understand it, enjoyed a good relationship with the family, and he's with his daughters today. Of course, he had to be informed, and no one takes pleasure in doing anything like that. As I said, I want to give credit to the state police who were here tirelessly in great numbers and responded extremely quickly to this. Obviously, they can't undo what was done, but they made the best of going forward, and it is good news that we have him in custody, and he's arrested. He's going to have to answer for these things. This is clearly one of the most disturbing crimes we've had. It's a nightmare for parents and for the community. It certainly is an absolute attack on the system, which is an attack on all of us. And there is a remedy that's built into society for extreme cases like this. And it was disturbing to me yesterday that I had to go to Harrisburg to testify in hearing against removal of the death penalty. And literally leaving the barracks working on a case like this and have to go out and talk to people about why we should have an option of a death penalty for less than 1% of our murderers in Pennsylvania. It was a difficult day and hard for me to see some things, and I do wish some of the politicians that are considering in Harrisburg isolated from the day and work that these men and women do with the state police and the communities have to suffer and the victims have to suffer. Maybe they should take a step back and look at those things rather than making their decisions in their comfortable offices of Harrisburg. And it's certainly something that will be, obviously the death penalty in this case, there's a process to go through before we decide to file it. I can tell you there are a number of aggravating circumstances with warrant, but we do have to meet with everybody involved and follow the process along the way. So I think I'll turn it over to Captain White for any comments he has at this time.
Thank you. Again, as the district attorney said, this was a really disturbing event for our troopers to respond to. This homicide was equally as horrific as anything we've seen, and I think everybody's fully aware of the things that we've had to deal with in this county over the past years. The district attorney's office was instrumental in helping us proceed with the investigation, as well as members of their staff, Detective Yeoman, John Doobie, Detective Doobie, were a great help during this investigation. So I'm going to open it up for any questions anybody might have.
Can you, I'm sorry, can you go on and explain why you say this is an absolute attack on the system?
Well, as we've laid out in the affidavit, the motive for the crime would be because they were victims of the sexual assault allegations and charges that have been bound over, and if that's indeed what the case was. Obviously, as I said, he's presumed innocent, but that's one of the factors that we're saying took place. It's not a coincidence they targeted this residence. He wasn't stealing from them. He did it because they were victims, and it's a retaliation against witnesses. You take out witnesses, you start doing that, you try to take out more. That's an absolute attack on the system. We're all part of the system, and that's an attack on everyone. So obviously much more personal to the family, and they all our condolences. But that's what I'm referring to. That will be for a jury to decide, of course. That's what we've got right now. That's our best information as to why this would occur.
Do you know how long they've lived in the basement apartment?
I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know whether anyone does. No.
How do you feel that he was out on bail?
One of the primary functions of the district justices in our system is to determine what the appropriate bail is in each case. That's a difficult decision, and when they run for that office, they carry that burden and responsibility to make sure they get the right bail. You never know, as I informed you yesterday, the information that I received, and I could be wrong, but the preliminary information I received was that there have been no contact between the families really once the investigation took place. There are clearly serious charges, but let's make no mistake about it. The responsibility for this terror and for this crime falls on the shoulders of one individual. It's not the district justice's fault. We can obviously, we have to look at everything and make sure that we're trying to do what we can, but those judges have to make judgment calls every day, and in this case, looking back, what would we say? We wish the bail had been higher. Nobody gives those MPJs a crystal ball. I think it would be entirely appropriate for everybody in the system involved to look at bail going forward for sexual assault allegations, and maybe take an extra minute. I know that we asked for cash bail, looking at the file from Cooper Giroux. The judge sets the bail, and then the defendants are responsible for their conduct. And like I said, so clearly the responsibilities on one person. The charges he faced felonies to the second degree were the highest. Rape was not one of the charges, but they were very serious, and it has been, certainly from time to time, I will admit, and it's public record that we don't always agree with what the bails set in cases, and we have to pick and choose which ones we're going to try to pursue, and that's the nature of the system. We're going to see that in any county, in any state in the country, that everyone's not going to come together and just hoping to get it right. But I don't think the focus should be on bail in this case. The focus should be on the defendant's conduct and the choices he made.
Do you think the proximity of where the suspect lived to his victim should have played a factor in the bail amount?
Not here to criticize the judge. The judge was given the facts. He knew the addresses. That's his jurisdiction, and I mean that's a question for him. I think I'm not standing here for him. I'm here with the state police and my office.
When Thomas was taken into custody, did he say anything? Show any signs of remorse?
I can't answer that question. I can't comment on that.
Has the knife been recovered?
We're not sure. We believe so. Obviously, we've got to do testing. It's still early. I mean, I can't even tell you. The autopsy is going on right now, so I can't even give you more information exactly how many injuries they suffered. I can tell you it's multiple. It's terrible. We believe that we have recovered the knife, but we're not sure. And that's one thing I would want to emphasize. This case is far from over. There are people out there I know, people that we have talked to, people that we might not have talked to that know more about this case. And we call upon them, particularly the lost lives here, young individuals that we're talking about, and to come forward and tell us everything that they know. Even if they think that it might not be relevant, there's some facts out there that's going to help us establish this case and prove all the facts of it. So there's a lot more to do.
Can you talk about his children? He has kids as well?
He does. I don't want to talk about his children.
Ages or how many?
I don't. It's irrelevant to us. They didn't do anything, and every time you have a homicide, particularly multiple homicide, a lot of people suffer. So it's not just the loss of life, but the victim's surviving family, the defendant's family, those individuals who had nothing to do with it are also victims of this. It's a widespread net of horror, terror, and just unfortunate and sad events. And we're sorry for any innocent children of defendants anywhere. That comes down to defendant's conduct.
When you were asking for people to come forward if they know anything, do you think that this had been planned prior to that night?
I can't answer that question. It was clearly a premeditated crime. You don't stumble into anybody's house, force your way into the window and stab multiple individuals. You got to carry a knife. You got to walk there. He had multiple times to stop this decision. This is clearly a specific intent, premeditated, multiple first-degree murder case.
Were the victims asleep when you attacked any of that? You said seeing that, but where they were found, how they were found?
I don't know that I could completely answer that question for you. It would be not unreasonable to assume that the victims were at rest. I can tell you that that there were attempts to escape in there, and this is way worse than it sounds so far. And there's not going to go into any further detail at this point.
Just to clarify, when was this court date, the next time you fixed judge?
Oh, well, he had a preliminary hearing on May the 22nd. And the next time he would have, I mean, typically there would have been a lull between the preliminary hearing and, well, those charges are still pending. You know, he may have thought he got rid of them. They're still pending, and we're going to pursue those.
It was on trial.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was no real date of significance. He would have a pretrial conference. I don't have that date for you, but he wasn't scheduled for a trial. It would be coming up. So, but typically, you're going to have months in between preliminary hearing and the disposition, unless something is worked out. I don't
Can you tell us how many people were in the home, what they were,
Yes, and that's Jennifer Hershey who called 911, and I spoke about, she heard screams from downstairs, the daughter came to her door, and they took care of her and acted appropriately, protecting her, helping to save her life, and getting medical there and getting the state police there.
The entire Hershey family, 8 people were home at the time.
I don't know the answer to that question.
So Hershey's indicated that they had feared he might come to the home.
The Hershey's?
Yeah, the Hershey family, like, the Scheetz family, of course, was in the basement, but did they indicate to the Hershey family that they had a fear that I would be coming?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
Why was he called Pi?
I know, I'm not going to talk about it. There's nothing derogatory that I really understand. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's, for us, it matters in the sense that that's how everyone identified him. I'm sure that'll come out. I think I know, it actually wasn't really that important to me yesterday, why he was called Pi, just that's who he is, and that's the defendant.
Is that what he's known to other people, or just that family? Like, that's what he's well known as Pi. So when you're calling the people who come forward, they know Pi.
Yes, other people knew that he was referred to as Pi.
Can you say anything about the relationship with him being used?
They knew each other prior to the sexual assault allegations. I think it'd be fair to say we're a friendly relationship. I don't know the history of it, other than they were well known to each other, families were well known to each other.
They ever lived together at any point?
That's not aware of.
How would you address the public safety concern? I know a lot of neighbors were very concerned yesterday. I know it's unrelated, you have said that, but what kind of reassurance would you give to people who might be concerned about this?
Well, I think everyone should be concerned about this. It's extremely disturbing. The one thing I can say is the state police acted extremely quickly, and he was in their custody very early on. And I think by the time I got back from Harrisburg from the hearing, I think they had released that there was no danger to the public. I mean, it takes a little bit of time for Captain White and his men and women in the state police sort of to gather the information, and nobody gives us a book and says, here's what happens. I think as early on, we felt safe that we had the information that we had the right individual, and that's when we said that we had him. We try to provide the assurances as early as we are reasonably able to say that. But the last thing we want to do is tell the community that we don't think there's any danger to the public, or we're not pretty sure that we have the right guy. There's something else out there, or that there's another person involved, and we're not seeing anything like that at this point in time. But I mean, the whole thing is extremely dark and extremely disturbing, and it does absolutely, crimes like this do rattle the fabric of the community, and it's going to take a long time to recover from this. All we have to do, all we can do, is to focus on making sure that he receives the full measure of justice that we can give him under the laws of Pennsylvania.
It's mentioned that the 15-year-old said it was Pi, there was something white on his face. But was he wearing a mask of some sort? Do you have any idea?
Can't really comment further other than that's what it says. That we have not really been able to follow up the interview. She went to surgery to make sure they saved her life. That's the priority. Investigation comes second. We'll follow up with her as soon as the doctors say it's ready, and work with her family and counselors and make sure we do it as minimal emotional cost to her. I mean, she may not even know at this point in time that her mother and sister are dead. I don't actually know that answer. Essentially, she went into the hands of the care of our medical professionals, and until they tell us it's okay to talk to her, that's where she's going to stay. And we'll handle it with the most sensitivity that we can. So we'll get more information on that.
Is she still at LGH?
I'm not going to tell you where she is. I don't think it's relevant.
She's still critical?
She's she's still in stable condition.
Critical but stable.
I think she's pretty. Yeah, she's been upgraded to stable.
Anything else from anybody?
I don't think so. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm confused. Do you think we try to clean up after this, even though, I mean, it sounds like the people were upstairs responding right away? Doesn't
yes, we are saying in our affidavit and our charges that he took significant efforts to clean up and eliminate any forensic evidence of his involvement in this crime. One, the shower was recently used. Two, the washing machine was full of men's clothing, including his footwear, and massive amounts of bleach early on in the morning. So, yes, we have other evidence that we didn't put in the affidavit, so I can't talk about it, but there's more to it. But yes, absolutely. We believe he did these terrible acts, and he went back to his house and began to clean up and hide the evidence of his crime.
How long do you think this all happened? Time span?
Minutes. The actual murder itself, you're stabbing 3 different people multiple times, it takes a little bit of time, and, I don't know. We'll get more information. We don't have any evidence that he was there for a long period of time. The evidence is quite consistent with premeditated assassination of 2 individuals, no discussion. He didn't go over there and break in through the window with a knife in the middle of the night, have a discussion.
He walked there and walked back.
I'm not going to comment on that at this point in time. Obviously, David, we're saying dogs, that would be consistent with that.
He was already gone by the time the Hershey's came to town.
I don't know the answer to that question. We'll try to unfold that. The daughter was up with one Hershey's. I don't know.
You mentioned about the escape. Can you say, did they all try to escape at some point, or just the daughter was trying to escape, just the 15-year-old was trying to escape?
Well, obviously the one got out. There's evidence consistent with another one trying to get out. Actually, we put the affidavit here with him, but the people, you see the movies and stuff, and people tend to drop instantly, and we find, unfortunately, in the real world that in this